City of Stevens Point Police and Fire Commission meeting, recorded August 8, 2023.
It's 2 o'clock. I will call to order the August 8th, 2023 Police and Fire Commission meeting. First on the agenda, Rebecca, could you please call the roll?
Kirschling.
Here.
Moore.
Here.
Ostrowski.
Here.
Zenner.
Here.
And Commissioner Morozek is excused. Agenda item number 2 is the President's report. And for August, it's that time of the year again when we start thinking about evaluations for the liaisons and the chiefs to start taking care of those, get them under wraps, and proceed with employee evaluations if you haven't done those yet too, chiefs, because there's not enough things to do already. Other thing is budgets. I'm sure you've already started working on them. We're pretty conscientious about that all year long, but always good to stay on top of it. Moving along, what else do we need to think about this time of year? Anybody else have anything? I can't think anything off the top of my head. I really don't have much else for the President's report, so we're going to move on to agenda item number 3, which is the approval of the minutes from last month. So we need a motion, comments, or questions.
Kirschling, make a motion to approve the minutes from last month.
That would be the July 11th meeting.
I'll second.
Second by,
Zenner.
yeah, I was going to call him Chief, and that was, it was stuck. Okay, motion by Kirschling, second by Zenner. Any questions or comments on the minutes? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. The minutes are approved. Moving on to agenda item number 4, turn over to Commissioner Ostrowski for the confirmation of bills.
Okay, Mr. President, thank you. Basically, there's nothing much to explain this month other than on the police report. The first 3 items you'll see is a repetition. It's not a repetition. The county bills us for that use of our electrical out at the range, and they didn't bill us for a couple months. So they're catching up. That's why you see 3 charges. Then the other one down below, you'll see Lexipol annual renewal for almost 11,000. That is an annual budgeted item. It's a necessary item, so it draws your attention, but it is there. Other than that, I have no comments, and I would recommend approval of all budgets as submitted.
Okay, we have a motion to approve budgets as submitted.
Kirschling, second.
Second by Commissioner Kirschling. Any questions or comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Bills are confirmed. Moving on to agenda item number 5, discussion with possible action on approval of Police Department capital budget requests for 2024. Assistant Chief Brosier, what do you got for us?
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'd like to go over our 2024 capital request. As you'll see in your handouts, our projected prior to a few months ago was $346,000. That's not accurate moving forward, but to kind of break down where some of these numbers have changed, as you'll see, the vehicle radio purchases and the VRS system, we were able to move those out into 2026. And we also had some other budget items for next year that were already purchased this year, either via other departments' budgets like IT for downtown camera systems, and we also used the governor's grant money to replace the video interview rooms in-house, which were much less than the $45,000 that we projected. So a lot of the numbers in that original projection were moved to other years or already purchased. However, we are adding to that projection $261,500. And you'll see our biggest purchase, which would be our number one purchase that we would want, is new camera systems and body cam. The cameras in the vehicles and then the body cams, a whole new system, which you're going to be seeing some videos and our experts talking about that in a few minutes. That's kind of our biggest upgrade. And our last system we purchased was 8 years ago, and we're going from a server hopefully to cloud, and that's has a lot of pros that our current system doesn't have, but it comes at a price tag as well. So our second item would be new tasers. The new Taser 10 is coming out, and that comes with a lot of licensing fees. That's why that's $120,000. That would be our second most important item that we're requesting. And then number three, we eventually would like to have a joint garage with the Parks and Forestry Department. So we're putting in $37,500 for a design of a garage. So that total comes to $6,750, which, like I had mentioned earlier, is $261,500 more than our very initial projections for this year. I know there's probably a lot of questions on the big number one for the car cameras and videos. I've got Lieutenant Eitenbrook and Sergeant Roser here. We have 3 videos, and we'll watch the videos, and then they're more than able to answer any questions. So take it away, Ben. Thank you.
Good afternoon. So just to kind of recap, as Assistant Chief Rotier mentioned, we last implemented the body cams and squad cams about 8 years ago. So if you think about technology in your smartphones, I mean, that's a lot of advances. And so currently, we have a work group going on right now with our PD looking at 3 different vendors, that being Axon, Motorola, and Digital Ally. And so many of these, it's not just body cams, it's not just squad cams, it's a platform. And hopefully I'm going to talk about some of the upgrades, but also these videos will kind of explain more and give you a better understanding, hopefully. But it's not just the cameras itself, it's how you manage the evidence, the digital, and how do you get it connected and to the cloud. And also we are going to be utilizing cloud, however it'll be a hybrid model. We're going to utilize the cloud, but also we currently have a server. So for some of the forever keeps or 7-year keeps as far as digital evidence, we would be able to download that to our server still, so that we would have more flexibility come the end of the contract with whatever vendor we choose, and also just would help out with storage and cost savings. So I'm just going to kind of outline a few things as far as technology upgrades and so forth. So some of the current platforms we're looking at are multifaceted. So they have body cams and they have squad cams. And the squad cams are not just cameras that capture what's happening, but they also are automated license plates readers. So what does that mean? It runs plates as officers are patrolling on the roadway. And certain vendors will integrate with the current Flock system that we utilize, that we've had a lot of successes with. So that's something that we're exploring as well. Another cost savings, or I should time savings, is community engagement tools. As an example, if we have a burglary or if there's a fight downtown and someone has video evidence, currently we have to ask them to email it to us or maybe take a video of it. Many of these platforms have web-based links where you can send to that person and they can upload their video via the web from their smartphone, from their Ring cameras, things like that. So technological advances for sure. So with some of the body cams that we're looking at, they are LTE devices, meaning they're like a smartphone in the sense of they can upload footage or live stream footage in the field. As an example, an officer is out on a traffic stop, they draw their gun or they activate their body camera, it can send an alert via smartphone or computer to a supervisor, command staff, and you'll have live streaming capabilities to see what's happening and a GPS location where that officer is. And so with that connectivity, the body cam footage can upload into the field. That's not our current capabilities right now. Smartphones is an example. Right now we have point-and-shoot cameras, which are antiquated in the squads. When we have cram seeds, we take pictures with those. The new version will be utilizing smartphones, those pictures will upload to the evidence platform via the internet. And it'll be all in one spot. So when we have our detectives look at footage, they can look at body cam footage, squad cam footage, things that the community has given us as evidence, as well as crime scene photos all in one spot and connected. The plus to that as well is that, so that's all packaged in one spot. Currently we have multiple different locations. So when we share for prosecution purposes with the DA's office, it's a portal and they have access to all that. Currently, some of our surrounding law enforcement agencies currently have this technology, so it's a matter of catching up to those capabilities for our department. Another cost savings that we would look at potentially as far as time is labeling of videos. A number of these platforms provide auto labeling based on for case numbers, HC case numbers, and for the type of incidents, as well as assistance for redacting. So as you guys are familiar with, people can ask for body cam footage, and if they're able to get released, sometimes we need to redact it, and a Records Bureau does that, and it can be labor intensive. So what I mean by redacting, if it's a juvenile in the video or something that's sensitive in nature, they have to blur it out, and it might be frame by frame. Currently, what we're using takes a number of time, takes some time. However, with some of these upgrades, there's some added features that are going to save time and cost savings. Currently, what we're doing is, as I mentioned, so we have a work group, and so we have 3 different vendors, and so right now we're in the test phase for a number of them. We're starting it, so in field testing to see how it works, because we can have sales pitches. However, we want to see it working in live action. So that's the next 30 days what we're implementing with 3 of the vendors, just to keep you up to date on that. The thing I might have missed out is that one of the vendors, that being Axon, does integrate with our tasers currently, or will be with future tasers. So that means if an officer activates a taser, the body cams would turn on and things would be kind of all tagged in one package. So that's all I have for the speaking portion. However, I'm going to turn it over to Sergeant Roser to talk about the TASER 10, and then at the end we have several videos from Axon. I'm not trying to be specific to one vendor. However, these videos we picked best explain some of the platforms and the technology upgrades, because I can talk and give you a lot of different examples, but sometimes the video is the best. Sergeant Roser.
Hello, thank you. So I'm here to discuss hopefully moving forward with our PD and implementing and purchasing the TASER 10. The reason that we need these upgrades are we currently deploy the X26P TASER by Axon, and that is the oldest model that they have. Unfortunately, it has a shelf life, and when that comes to an end, I'm not sure. But since the X26P came out, they came out with 3 other models. They no longer support those, and they have discontinued them, including models that use the same technology, the same docking, evidence sync, and batteries that the X26P that we have used, which the writing's on the wall, that means this is going to come to an end. Should that ever happen, we have maybe a year's worth of supplies that we could continue using those X26Ps for roughly a year, and then we would be forced to upgrade. So right now we're trying to get ahead of the ball and ask that we do that now so we're not forced to down the road. The TASER 10 is the newest model that just came out, and it is different than the previous models in that with a single trigger pull, only 1 probe comes out instead of the normal 2. And the reason for this is accuracy. The vast majority of tasers, 2 probes come out, and if you cant the device a little bit in either direction, that bottom probe is going to miss. What this means now is you have 2 trigger pulls to deploy the 2 probes, and your accuracy is going to be far greater, which means the effective use of the taser will be much better. Currently, we have a success rate of about 50% with our tasers, and most of that is due to accuracy. We end up missing, and that's just that bottom probe doesn't make that connection. But with this, the officer can pick where they want each probe to go, and far better accuracy. Along with that now, they have improved their distance capabilities up to 45 feet, which means that you could deploy much sooner from a farther distance, which would greatly increase officer safety and citizen safety. Whoever we're dealing with would be able to deploy from a much greater distance and not have to go hands-on. The packages that are asking for are for 5 years, and it is basically a rental program from Axon. You cannot purchase the TASER devices outright anymore. Everything is basically a lease. So you do that 5-year lease, and then all equipment, including cartridges, training targets, and simulation suits are included in that price tag. So this is a total package for road deployment and training and recertifying and getting our department up to speed with that. The TASER 10 device itself is coming off of the technology of the TASER 7, which is the model just before this, and so it is the next iteration in the line. And so far, it seems that it is vastly improved on that technology. Before we have any videos, any questions regarding that? Yes.
How many tasers would you be looking for?
20 for our department. That would cover the road, and then any major, like the golf outing tournaments or riverfront, things like that, that would ensure that every officer had one.
Is this a one-time cost, or is there yearly where there's going to be something built into the budget?
Not yearly. It is for every 5 years.
Okay.
It's a 5-year plan.
Okay, so the 120 is 5 years.
Correct.
Okay.
And then whatever included in that, any deployment that we have on the road, it's written into that contract that we can send those cartridges and stuff, and they send us new ones.
Okay.
It's, training also. Okay. Thank you for your time.
I was thinking about a financing program, like
So President Moore, if you
120
could
right
start
up
with
front
that
seems
first
just
video
like
here.
a lot.
As law enforcement agencies add more equipment to their vehicles and to the PCs in the vehicle and on the officer's uniform, the more there is for that officer to remember. So the more that can work automatically, interacting with each other, and the better they're able to work towards positive outcomes for the community. There's an abundance of technology to solve certain problems in the vehicles, but it all needs connectivity. And the expectations are that the systems and databases can connect to the cloud all the time. To address some of these challenges, agencies are installing Fleet 3 with video capture, license plate reading, and live streaming, connecting up through a Cradlepoint router to Axon Evidence.
So as part of the Axon Fleet 3 solution, Cradlepoint is providing all the connectivity for not only the dash cameras, but the ALPR system, and is also providing the agency wireless offloading via Wi-Fi as WAN, so when the car pulls back at the station, they can use the existing infrastructure to actually offload the video that's on the car. NetCloud Manager, our cloud management service, allows someone back at the station to upgrade firmware, to do the security patches and everything that's needed while the car stays on the road. Cradlepoint's dual modem routers allow the agency to take a dual carrier approach to guarantee that the cars that are on the streets are always having the connectivity they need by leveraging two carriers simultaneously.
And I'd like to introduce you to one of our test vehicles. This is a Ford 2020 Police Interceptor unit, and we've equipped it with gear typically seen in law enforcement agencies in the United States and Canada, as well as the Axon Fleet 3 in-car camera system with ALPR and a Cradlepoint router. Let's have a look. The Fleet 3 system has two cameras. One is a forward-facing camera capturing what's out in front of the vehicle, and the other is an interior camera that's capturing what's in the back seat. That camera has infrared, so even in the night, the camera captures what the occupant is doing and saying. This forward-facing camera has actually two cameras in one. One is a wide-angle camera that captures everything in the forward field of view of the police vehicle. The other camera is a 4K camera that is able to capture license plates in very high resolution so that the AI algorithm can read the characters and compare it with the agency hot list. If there is a license plate red that is on the agency hot list of stolen vehicles or major offenses or even an Amber Alert, the officer will receive an audible alert. At that point, they manually verify that the plate is correct before making an interdiction and interacting with a member of the public. And also there's this application called Dashboard that runs on the PC in the vehicle. And they can control each of those cameras with a touch of a button to start, mute, zoom in, a tap to zoom so you can zoom in even further if you need to get a closer look at things. So with the Fleet 3 system, there are several methods that the cameras are automatically activated. An officer has to activate their taser, also activates their light bar to start a pursuit or pull someone over. That will automatically activate both their body camera and the forward-facing dashboard cameras. When that incident is over and the video has been recorded, it then starts uploading to Axon Evidence. Fleet 3 has even more connectivity demands, not only uploading video, but downloading hot lists for license plate reading, uploading plate reads, and doing live streaming of the video and audio back to the command. All of these solutions require strong connectivity in the vehicle, and that's where the Cradlepoint technology has been a key enabler. One of the strengths that we've seen emerge from Cradlepoint is the robustness of the connectivity solution itself, the configurability remotely, working towards solving law enforcement problems in the field. We have found opportunities to collaborate to make the integration between Axon camera systems and Cradlepoint routers even tighter and deeper.
So the benefit to the agency of the Axon Cradlepoint partnership is that the agency gets a full in-car video system with the router. They get it from Axon with the Axon Fleet 3 and Cradlepoint solution.
If you could pause that, that'd be great, and then the next one should be...
There's one simple hearing hack anyone can use to...
I wasn't quick enough.
Okay, so I have one more video for the body cam and evidence side of things, and it's a short video, so I'd like to play that, and then if you have questions and answers type of thing, we can do that.
Yes. And all this becomes evidence. And evidence can't do what it's meant to do when it's disorganized, hard to find, view, and share. Each piece of evidence begins with a single source. Shouldn't it end up in a single place? The answer is Axon Evidence, a secure, centralized digital evidence management system that accepts all types of evidence and organizes it in one place. Axon Evidence can instantly find that one piece of evidence you need to build a strong case. And it's designed with easy-to-use functionality like dynamic review and playback. It's also versatile, with built-in tools like automated redaction, performance, and sharing. Plus, transcription, evidence suggestions, and more make the whole process lightning quick. And we're just getting started. Future features will include virtual and augmented reality scene scans. We're also working on evidence timeline and mapping views, and a host of AI connections and mobile experiences for working in the field. Axon Evidence, the DEMS for the demands of modern policing.
Okay, the last video that we'll pause for is going to explain the TASER 10. Any questions from the commissioners as far as the body cams, evidence.com, that type of stuff? Yes, sir.
Well, this requires somebody back at headquarters to be monitoring this.
Not necessarily to be monitoring. It is set up so that, as an example, for the body cameras, they are LTE capable. So if a taser is activated, it can send a automated response or an alert to one of the command staff or a supervisor, and it would then live stream what's going on so they could monitor that. They have a number of different features. At a minimum, it would be the taser, the newer tasers that would connect for Axon at least. Now, Motorola is a different vendor, so they won't have that interoperability. Both Motorola and Taser do also provide sensors, like for when an officer draws their firearm, so that it would automatically trigger the body camera. So the officer doesn't have to make the decision of, do I draw and do that? It's triggers each other.
Automatic response.
Correct. So in the video, they're talking about different triggers. So example, like typically if the squad lights are turned on for emergency lights, it would then automatically activate the body camera. If the taser, if we go with the newer tasers, would then, they're Bluetooth synced, so if that's armed or activated, the body camera would automatically turn on. If we decide to go with sensors in our holsters, and when an officer draws their firearm, it would activate the body camera. I'm not drawing, just. So those are all different features that are in the platforms that we're looking at. So it's kind of seamless in many respects, depending upon which vendor we go with. So to answer your question, we do have that capability where currently we don't. Like currently now we have to, if we want to look at body cam as an example, when there was the investigation with the officer-involved shooting, we did have some malfunctions with some of the body cams currently, and we also had to wait for them, to be able to come back here to dock it, can't live stream it or upload it in the field. And same thing with the squads, with the current system.
If he fires the taser, can we rearm it ourselves, or does it have to be sent in each time?
So on my limited understanding, I'll defer that to Sergeant Roser.
For the Taser 10, it has 10 different probes in it, and so you can have up to 10 shots with that taser before you have to reload the magazine.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
The process you guys go through now for uploading video, how much time does each officer spend doing that during the day?
So it varies. So currently our squads, they need to be by the PD to upload wirelessly. And so, that may happen throughout the shift. If it's a long shift or you're call to call, that may not happen to the end of the shift. Or the body cam, they physically have to be docked in the station, connected to Ethernet capabilities. So the newer options, it still have docks where they can upload. We would have the capability to upload and or live stream in the field. So that's a huge game changer in my opinion. So along with that, if you're talking about saving, so what typically officers would come and dock their body cams at the end of shift or mid shift, and they need to wait for that to upload, and then officers are required to then go back and view body camera footage and label them with a agency case number so that records can identify them, and also to give a brief description. With the new platforms that we're looking at, they have features where they integrate with our current computer CAD system, Flex Motorola, where they would tag automatically based on the time frame and the officers. It's not 100%, but it would be a cost saving, so the officers are not at the end of their shift the next day labeling video. Yes, sir.
Bob asked it, but just to clarify, do all the vendors provide a real-time live stream, or is that just Axon?
Axon and I believe Motorola is capable of doing that as well. Digital Ally, that remains to be seen. They're not as advanced in their technology.
Can that be activated in say a SWAT call out? Can they activate into live stream without a trigger, or just from remote, or do you have to be the officer in the field?
So we just actually had a rep from Axon today, and we're working on setting up. There's a lot of different ways you can set it up. As an example, for your instance, for a SWAT call, we had discussed this, where we have a separate officers. Typically, your normal officer on patrol, we would not set that up where other officers can view that. But perhaps you can do subgroups, and the SWAT team would be one of them, where potentially their footage could be viewed as when their cameras are activated.
Okay.
In the field, and it also would show their GPS location as well.
And the last question, do any of these 3 vendors you're looking at currently have a state contract?
I have
some of
not
them.
asked that as far as a state contract. That's something I can clearly ask.
How long has Axon been around? Roughly.
I mean, we've had Axon, tasers, Axon, the parent company, has purchased a number of different, like, they now have CAD systems, they have taser, so the Axon itself, I don't have a time frame, but they've been in the industry for law enforcement products for some time now. So, they're reliable, they have a track record. And so does Motorola. Motorola makes, our police radios and our CAD systems. So we're dealing with companies that have a good amount of resources available to them, and they'll be around. If there's other questions, I'd like to show this last video, which is going to explain the TASER 10 and the.
Why does an officer ever need to use lethal force? Police don't use lethal force because it's lethal. They use it because it's reliable. It's the most effective way to stop a threat. Today, public safety has limited opportunities to stop a threat with a less lethal weapon. And when less lethal tools don't work, people die. That is the problem we felt obligated to solve.
It was a matter of global safety. We were working truly around the clock to find a solution to a problem that was and is costing lives.
We had conversations with both public safety and the community. We really involved the true end users.
The only motivation we needed was the knowledge that when this product launches, lives will be saved.
We owe public safety and communities a better way to stop threats without having to take a life.
The TASER 10 is that weapon. It begins a new era in less lethal technology. When we set out to develop our next generation TASER energy weapon, we couldn't make a weapon that was simply a small step above our last model. We needed a weapon that would begin to shift how the world looks at less lethal technology.
The key is to find common ground. We want people in the community to be safe and feel safe. And so when it came to the design process, we really brought in all the key stakeholders, both public safety and community members.
I challenged my team to create this revolutionary new TASER weapon in just a few years.
Rick has a history of being an incredible innovator. For outsiders, it might appear to be an unrealistic timeline, but if you know Rick, you know anything is possible.
For Rick, this was never about money or profit. This was about the mission. He'd remind us on a daily basis that lives were being lost, and as a team, we knew that there was no excuses. We just had to figure out a way to get it done.
It was a massive engineering and design challenge.
The stakes were high. We had to do it right, and we had to do it responsibly. There was just not a lot of room for error.
We faced some major roadblocks during the development of TASER 10, including the cartridge deployment mechanism.
It's really all about the misses. You look at the causes of ineffective use of a TASER energy weapon, and everything indexed back towards, I just need more rounds. So we had to find a way to give public safety more cartridges and more capability in the same size weapon. We also knew that trust in the weapon was going to be key, which is why we focused so heavily on reliability. The threshold wasn't, can we do it right, but it's, can we not do it wrong?
It's emotional to see this product come to life, because I truly do think it will change the world. It will change how people think about less lethal options. I've been working on developing and improving TASER technology for 30 years. I've dedicated my entire career to the idea that we can and we must find a way to stop threats without taking lives. I'm the first to admit TASER weapons aren't perfect, but TASER 10 is a hell of a step towards making TASER energy weapons the most reliable and effective force option in the world.
When officers try TASER 10 for the first time, their jaws really drop. This weapon can be used at almost twice the distance of our previous models. That's pretty incredible. When someone steps back and deploys their weapon from 35 feet, even 40 feet, they're astonished. That's when they realize this device is truly groundbreaking.
It's important that the TASER 10 can be effective at stopping threats in situations where a firearm may have been the only option in the past. At the end of the day, community members and officers want to make it home. And by improving the effectiveness of TASER technology, we can help make sure that happens.
On top of the distance, TASER 10 having 10 cartridges is a real game changer. Currently, TASER energy weapons have 1 to 2 cartridges. Officers in the field now have significantly more chances to stop a threat with a less lethal weapon, increasing the possibility of an effective outcome. And because this weapon only deploys 1 cartridge at a time, officers now have even more control over creating a large enough probe spread to really cause immobility.
This device is part of a larger movement within Axon to make change at a faster pace. Axon has a moonshot goal to cut gun-related deaths between police and the public by 50% in the next 10 years.
The first major step in accomplishing this moonshot goal is the TASER 10.
We're all ushering in the future with this piece of technology.
TASER 10 is the start of the conversation that will include better training and better relationships between public safety and the community.
I hope that when agencies hear about TASER 10, that they're excited, knowing that they're going to be able to protect and serve their communities more safely and more effectively than ever before. I hope that officers feel relieved, knowing that they'll have a tool designed to keep them safe and avoid having to take a life. I hope communities feel more confidence that they can count on public safety to make sure that they get home safe. We've built a tool that is significantly more effective than any TASER energy weapon ever, so public safety doesn't have to transition to a firearm. We're trying to shrink the pool of decisions where it's life or death, where it's me or them, where that one decision dictates whether or not someone ever goes home.
TASER 10 is designed to save lives. It's that simple. With TASER 10, we can and will reduce the number of gun-related deaths worldwide. And I think that's as powerful a reason to believe in this product as anything else.
It's that once-in-a-career product that you work toward and dream of. It's the culmination of decades of work and thousands of forward-thinking individuals who came together in the hopes of making the world a safer place. I feel a sense of true hope watching this technology be adopted, and I can't wait to see where the coming years will take us.
Any questions for Sergeant Roser? Go ahead, Robert.
I'm thinking that this will allow the officer to go after the person that resists even more, easier. Every now and then you hear of somebody that was tasered and they fought it off and it required a second. This allows the officer to respond, correct?
Yes, with this, the accuracy will be better, and then a greater distance, which means we won't have to get as close to that individual. With all TASER devices that we use, we always want backup there so that we're able to take that person into custody with the least amount of force necessary. With this device and the greater accuracy, we will be able to achieve the NMI needed to incapacitate that person for that 5 seconds to take them into custody easier.
Why do they make these as a lease process only and not a purchase?
I think honestly, I can't speak to Axon, but they have a clear hold on the market, and anyone else that has created any other devices that could mimic a taser or some other less lethal option like that, they suddenly go out of business. And so without speaking to them, I think it's just it's a money grab for them at times. They do have a $10 million insurance policy for every PD. However, they only offer that if your device is within that 5-year period.
Certification.
So if you have a device that's over that 5 years, they won't offer that service to you. So they always recommend that their products have a 5-year shelf life also.
So there's not an option there. It's lease only.
Correct.
Totally.
The only one that you can still purchase right now is the X26P that we have. But like I said, all that technology is going to the wayside.
Does this require more than one shot to incapacitate someone, or is it?
Correct, yes. With just like in the other taser, they have the 2 probes that come out. You will still have to have the 2 probes to complete that circuit. However, we can dictate now where those go. So if someone had a jacket on or any type, they're hidden, things like that, I can pick where on that body that I want that other probe to go now. Whereas before, it was a straight line. You were subject to that aim point.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thank you.
Very informative.
It's obviously, excuse me, it's obviously something the department needs. Sooner rather than later. We don't want to be waiting a year from now and scramble to try to get the equipment.
I would agree with that. Is there anything else you'd like to add, Chief?
No, thank you both. My official request is for the 2024 capital of $607,500.
Okay. Yes.
Chief, a question for you, Chief. Putting some of these others off into the future, is that going to put a strain on those items?
No. As I stated early, some of those things that were going to be implemented next year had already been purchased this year, and moving the repeater system and the vehicle radios out 2 more years, they're still in good shape, and we're not having any issues with those, so that won't be a problem.
One last question for you guys. With this, you said it uploads LTE system, which is older than the 5G system or anything out there on the towers. How good is the coverage throughout the county for this to work, or throughout the city at least?
So it depends on your vendor. I know Axon works with either Verizon or AT&T, so
You guys
FirstNet.
have
And
looked into that then?
Right, that's part of the field testing, but I mean, as good as the coverage is with our phones, is going to be similar coverage, is my understanding. So again, so that's why we're field testing to make sure the coverage is adequate.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, we could use a motion.
I'll make a motion, and just to start off, looking at the cost, this is a significant cost, but frankly, this just meets the expectation of the community, and as it comes, that does cost money. So I would motion that we accept and approve the police department capital budget as written.
I would second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? I also believe that this is something that we need, and the efficiencies the department will gain will allow the officers to spend more time doing work and not uploading videos and other accessory things, that this would be a great improvement. So, any other comments or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries.
Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you.
You are welcome, and thank you for that presentation, both of you. That was well done. Moving on to agenda item number 6, Police Chief's report. Assistant Chief.
Yes, thank you.
Haven't heard enough from you yet.
Yeah, we'll keep this short. So some of the important things that have happened in the last month, we have identified our next canine handler, which will be Officer Jason Dinger. In September, he, along with our current canine handler, I believe Lieutenant Eitenbrook and Assistant Chief Dana Williams, will be going down to also help select a dog. So we're excited about that. We had decisions made, officers informed that individuals determined to be possible victims of a crime not be left in the lobby after hours, that if we believe there's a victim that came here to report something, to be brought in in the secure facility of the police department, not the lobby, based on an incident that occurred on July 25th. So we've corrected that. We've also implemented a wellness program and have an attached policy with that, and we have people signing up already to meet for their annual wellness checkup. And then finally, we are currently in our last day of interviews to replace Officer Osick, who retired. And we have, I think, 3 interviews that are occurring this afternoon, and from the ones that have already happened yesterday and this morning, looks like we've got some really good candidates. So with that, I'll close out my chief's report.
Any questions for the Assistant Chief? I'll make a motion to accept the report and place it on file.
Kirschling, second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Moving on to agenda item number 7, discussion with possible action on rolling 80 hours of vacation over for Chief Moody into 2024. Chief Moody.
So a new city policy has been drafted this past year stating that management employees within the Stevens Point Fire Department will be allowed to roll over 80 hours, not 40 hours, on their anniversary date with the approval of the department head. Obviously, myself being the department head and trying to maintain transparency, I have done that for employees within the department, but when it comes to myself as the department head, I'm bringing that forward to the Police and Fire Commission for that approval.
Chief, does that mean you have to use that 80 in the following year?
Correct. It'll be the first 80 hours that are used after my anniversary date of August 16th.
So it's for the calendar year of August 16th to August 16th then?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not for 24. It would be the 16th of this year through the 16th of next year.
Correct. But they look at that as 24s.
I get it.
Yes.
Just clarity.
Yep.
So this is, I guess I'm confused on that because your hours isn't different in the fire department than I would assume the police department. Your hours are until the end of the year. You got until December 31st to use this year's vacation that's on the book, correct?
No, for our line staff personnel or anybody in the labor agreement, it goes by the calendar year. For our management staff within the fire department, just like other city employees, it goes by the anniversary date. So effectively, my hours are from August 16th of one year through to the August 16th of the following year.
Okay. And how much vacation have you used this year?
I am down to 80 hours.
So you've used, out of how many did you have?
I'd have to look back. I'm not sure.
And when do you have your next vacation scheduled?
today is my next vacation day scheduled.
Okay.
So we need a motion. I'll make a motion to roll Chief Moody's 80 hours of vacation into 2024. Would that be the appropriate motion?
I have a hard time with it because of the fact that it's really not 2024. I know because it's the rest into the anniversary year of, do you know what your anniversary year is? If it's like for the year 15 or 12?
This would be, this is going to be year 20. So
year 20.
Yes, I was hired in 2004, so 2024 would put me at 20 years.
Are you looking for a month? Is that what your concern is?
No, I'm trying, because the confusion that I'm having with this is that it's really not 2024, because it still continues from the 16th of this year for another 4 months of this year's date through the end of December. Then it begins in 2024 and goes through the 8th month of 2024. I want to make sure that he starts taking vacation time this year and not putting it off and not trying to bank it, but banking it. We have vacations scheduled for employees because they need time off for physical wellness, mental wellness, time for themselves.
So do you want to broaden it?
No, I don't want to broaden it. I want to clarify it so that we all understand what it's for. 2024 makes it look like it starts December 31st, January 1st of 2024 through December 31st. It's a clerical issue given to us by the city. Not, Logan, do you have any idea why it's listed that way?
So, you mean why it's indexed to a person's hire date rather than calendar year?
Yeah, because I don't remember it being that way before, but
it's been that way basically forever.
I believe you.
Yeah.
I just don't remember. I don't remember having an issue with this before, but.
Well, I think particularly in management positions and particularly in the fire department, the staffing issues, the number of complex just situations that have been on the plate the last couple of years have just made it more of a challenge to actually get that vacation time in than it has been in the past. And I think that if you're seeing any sort of uptick in having to talk about these types of things, it's probably more attributable to that than any sort of shortcoming in the actual policies themselves.
I'm not saying a shortcoming. I'm talking about the language on the way this is presented to us. It makes it look like it's going to go to calendar year 2024, and the rest of this year is ignored. And we're in the 8th month. We've got 4 months left. And he's talking about an anniversary date, which is later this month. That is part of the time where he's going to use this vacation time at. You understand what I'm saying?
I do understand. I think it's probably just a way of stating it. I mean, obviously the policies are what they are, and they're clear, and they have a lot of detail in them. The shorthand way to refer to it by saying calendar year 2024 is maybe a little confusing, but I'm not sure exactly what the alternative would be.
That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Would it be better to use anniversary date in 2024?
Yeah, what was your motion again?
Good question.
I guess let's
It was
get
for
that out
Chief
of the way.
Modi to roll his 80 hours of vacation over into 2024.
Okay, I guess just for
And
sake
calendar
of
date.
doing the further discussion, because I do have a couple questions I want to throw out. I have to second that before we go into further conversation, correct?
Correct, yeah.
I will second that motion.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second.
So do you want it to read calendar year or anniversary?
You made the motion.
Well, but that's the issue, is I want to get it right.
Well, and I don't know that there is a right or wrong, so we'll just go with what you said.
Yeah.
As of August 16th.
Yeah. So I'll revise my motion is for Chief Moody to use his 80 hours of vacation from his rolling calendar year.
His
Is that-
anniversary date calendar year.
Right. Right.
Is that acceptable? Presenter second?
Yes, I second that
Okay.
motion.
Now, what is your question?
And one I want to clarify, this is simply, we've had many conversations, Chief. I think it's important that we take time off. You're one of the hardest working individuals and dedicated that I've seen. And sometimes that can be to our own detriment. And I would want some assurances that you take your vacation. I don't want you to lose your vacation. And this is a little different situation. I know from my previous experiences in another department here within the city, we had till the end of the year or we lost it. And from indications are August 24th. If this isn't used, you lose it.
August 16th.
August 16th. And I certainly don't want to see you losing your earned vacation. But I would also want to see you using your vacation. And that's my reservation on this particular request. So whether that was asking a question or more of a statement, I guess I'll leave it at that.
It's understood. My next actual official vacation will be in September, the first weekend. I am taking my daughter bear hunting up north.
Okay.
So I'm taking a few days for sure.
Not August 16th?
Not August 16th.
Okay.
Very good. And that's my concern too. It's not absolutely nothing to do with losing vacation time. We're encouraging you to take it for your own well-being and your family's well-being. That's what we're concerned with, at least me personally. Is there any other comments or questions? We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. That was agenda item number 7. Agenda item number 8, discussion possible action on approval of fire department capital budget requests for 2024. Chief.
So unlike some other departments in the city of Stevens Point, I have been informed by the mayor and the comptroller's office that some of our requests in capital annually, you will see are reoccurring, and they are on there every year. And I'd like to point out that number 1 through number 5 are reoccurring costs that the city fire department actually has to have in order to operate. Number 1, turnout gear. You'll see a huge increase for the ask this year from the normal $28,750 to $50,000. The reason being is that turnout gear has a 10-year shelf life and then has to be replaced for the safety of our members. And because of all of the additional hires over the last 18 months, after our employees complete their first year anniversary and are off of probation, the department purchases turnout gear for them. Due to the influx of new personnel, we are going to have to increase that ask for this next year. And then as you can see in 2025, that'll come back down. The second thing is general fire equipment. Obviously, as we use things, things wear out. Third, would be our technical rescue equipment. There has been many new updates to the operations of the Stevens Point Fire Department's technical rescue aspects. As many of you have seen, we have gone to trailers. We have a 30-foot enclosed trailer now that houses all of our technical rescue equipment, a 26-foot enclosed trailer that houses all of our water rescue equipment, a 14-foot trailer that houses all of our fire investigation equipment, and we just recently purchased a 4th trailer from the Portage County Chiefs Association for $1, and that will be our 4th trailer in the fleet, and that will house all of our foam and master streams for use as a foam trailer. With that, we've also had to do some additional training and get some state certifications in trailer training, but there has been a need for additional equipment as well. Fourth, you will see communications. We are working closely with DPW and upgrading part of our command staff or command car fleet. And with that, we are going to need some upgraded radios to put in those apparatuses as well. So that's what that part of that will be for. And then number 5, you'll see that we also have a Leary Foundation grant that we're going to be submitting for this next year for new nozzles and hose. We have certain requirements within the fire departments that we are trying to meet, and with the pump capacity that we have on our new apparatuses and the older equipment, we're just not meeting those requirements or those needs. So we're going to be putting together a grant and moving forward with that, hopefully capitalizing on that this next year as well. The big ask then going away from our reoccurring costs. Those are reoccurring capital projects that happen every year. In addition to that, we'll be asking for a new fire station, Station 3, down at our training facility. That'll be a 3-bay facility to house one of our training fire apparatuses, an additional EMS apparatus to provide that third out ambulance when needed while we're down there doing the training, and an open bay to do training during extreme heat or extreme cold weather. This will be more of a pull shed style facility. It'll be put on a cement slab or a floating slab. It will not be staffed by personnel. It will have a state-of-the-art simulation lab for EMS, and we'll have a classroom for out at that training facility as well. There will be an office for the division chief down there, and those costs continue to go up as that building gets pushed out, but that'll be for 2024. That'll be our main ask. To go with that, you will see station furniture as well as number 7. If that is not approved for this next year, obviously, we're looking at number 8 and 9 as well. Redoing the apparatus bay at Station 1. Obviously, you've all been there. We have gotten a bid to basically clean everything, paint the walls, re-epoxy the floors, put some new garage door openers in, and rerun some air lines and electrical lines is where that bid came in at about $125,000. And then obviously the roof at Station 2 needing to be replaced for $220,000. We've worked really well with other city departments over the last year or two, working with borrowed funds and other groups that maybe there was some capital they didn't use, we used. I know the PD replaced the north side of the roof. We were able to capitalize on some of those additional capital funds as well, and replacing part of our roof as well. We did right and were successful. Last year we asked for $400,000 for our new SCBA's in capital, and we received a grant. So 3/4 of that funding was actually grant funded, and wasn't needed. So it's important to be looking for those grants as we go forward as well. So some of this will be grant funded, some of it we're asking for in capital.
Is the roof at number 2 leaking yet?
Yes, it is leaking.
Is that a rubber roof, Chief?
No, there's asphalt shingles on it, and we're afraid that there's also some OSB board damage underneath and some other issues.
Could it be looked at switching over to a rubber roof?
We're actually looking at, with that proposed package, that is a new steel roof on there. So working with the same company that redid the roof at Station 1 this year. And again, that would be about a 30-year a 30-year steel roof, and that's roughly what we have to get out of that station yet, is approximately 30 years, and we still need to get approximately 19 years out of Station 1.
If you can get that roof for $220, you'll be doing good.
And that's what, and you can see the cost. Last year when we were quoted the cost, it was $142,000, and this year it's already up to $220,000.
I've been involved in some recent roof jobs, and they are changing by the minute.
Yes, they are. And that's why you can see some of the projected costs for 2024, and then the requests have gone up, just because the average cost of doing business right now in the fire department is about 15 to 25% more than it was last year at this time, and on the apparatus side, it's about 34% more.
Chief, I also noticed back on the first page, under fire, you got fire trucks and generators. Generators are all okay at this time? I mean,
yes, and that's actually that's under DPW fleet fire, and that would be an ask for DPW. They monitor and maintain those for us.
Okay.
And actually, as of right now, both of our generators are well until 2028. You'll see there's a projection out there in 2028 to start replacing those.
Yeah, I was just concerned because that seemed like pretty far out.
And we just did work on that. I worked with DPW's superintendent, and that's where we projected everything.
Kirschling will make a motion to approve the fire department's capital budget request for 2024.
I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions or comments? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. We'll move that along. Agenda item number 9, Fire Chief's report, EMS report. Chief.
I know that there's been a request of the PFC to always make sure that we have our numbers up to date, members approved, positions funded, and staff that's fulfilling those positions. That is current as of today. I would like to point out, though, next month that'll all be changing. Every one of those numbers will be changing as we move forward. Obviously, we'll have an additional position approved. We'll have one more position funded and 2 more people on staff. So that'll be coming in next month's report. We were able to start our next academy as of yesterday, so that's moving ahead well. Riverfront Rendezvous in July went well. We did a pop-up splash pad at Spash this past month, and that went over really well with the public. Just happened to be the same day that the city pool had to actually close, and due to the heat index that day and how hot it was, we were able to work with the Stevens Point School District and use Spash's parking lot to use as a pop-up splash pad. Everything went very well. There was a lot of people in attendance, people coming come and go throughout the few hours that we provided it. And I'd have to say somewhere, I was out there all afternoon, and somewhere between 60 and 100 people showed up throughout the day to enjoy that splash pad. So it went over really well. One mutual or automatic aid fire response that I'd like to point out, 9034 Hemlock Road in Rosholt. That ended up being a 5-alarm fire, which also included interdivisional agencies, a strike team of engines from Marathon County and a strike team of tenders from Wood County also showed up. There was 100+ personnel or firefighters on scene, over 40 apparatuses and over 30 departments were on scene of that fire. So it was a large-scale fire that took all day, and we were part of that response matrix. And then under EMS, the last thing I'd like to point out through again, grant funding through the Flex grant, not only did we were able to purchase our new Water One, or our new boat, and the 26-foot enclosed trailer and all that additional equipment, but we were also able to provide training to the last 12 participants that needed swift water training, and they were able to get that with the department through another grant that we wrote. So that was really nice to see. We were wrapped up on everything. The boat is in service. It is housed at Station 1 inside, being pulled by Utility 1, and now all of our personnel are completely trained in swift water rescue at this point.
The former boat, Chief, what happened to that?
It has gone to the city to be placed on auction.
Any further questions or comments? Motions?
A motion to accept the fire chief's report and place it on file.
Second on that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Questions, comments? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Item number 10, discussion with possible action on final revisions to the policies and procedures for the Police and Fire Commission. Attorney Beveridge, you have the floor.
I've got 10 things I want to run through with you today. First, a couple little things, just a table of contents. I did finally add an exit interview policy and inserted that in the table of contents and adjusted it as needed. There is a reference to appendices here, 6213, just a copy of the actual statute. The reference to something called a waiver statement release. I'm not exactly sure what that is. And then, of course, the org charts for the departments. We'll make sure those are added for final version here. Just a spoiler alert, I am not actually expecting you to take action on this today, but it will be ready for action next month. So, getting into the meat and potatoes here. Going back to something we looked at a long time ago, section 1.04. That's the section that says what this set of documents that will be provided to new members of the commission. I know we had discussed how it just seemed a little bit much to be handing out, just big packets of printed material. So shrunk that down a decent amount. So basically, I'm thinking just a copy of these procedures and regulations themselves, and any authoritative handbook for police and fire commissions. I know that I'd gone through the one that had been shared amongst the membership here, and it has information in it that is pretty comprehensive. So I think the copy of open meetings, open records, all that type of stuff. Certainly, anytime there's a new member on the commission, I am happy to meet with them and go through some of that stuff just conversationally, which I think makes more sense anyway. I mean, I could hand somebody a copy of Chapter 19, but on its own, it's not of all that much use. So probably best to just sit down and talk through some of that stuff. We had talked a little bit last time and just previously about budget changes, and I know that it had at least been mentioned that perhaps we would have a threshold for certain, any sort of line item reallocation above X amount on operational stuff would actually require some sort of action. I'm curious to know if there's any appetite for that. I know I had shared via email portions of the budget pertaining to the departments so that you could just all get a look at how specific are those line items, what sort of sizes are they. Obviously, we haven't had anything like that anything like that in the past, and the wheels haven't come off. So I'm curious to know if anybody would like to see something like that inserted. The enthusiasm is overwhelming. I'm going to take that as a no. Okay. 3.04, talking about compensation for overtime for non-represented personnel. I still do have a note in there about the battalion chief and duty chief positions. That still hasn't been settled, so to speak. So I'll have to continue to have conversations with the chief about that. And obviously, if we get to the point where we're ready to act on this, but that's still up in the air, we can just act on this, and then if that one little section needs to be updated, we can do that via a pretty simple agenda item. There are a couple references throughout the document regarding affirmative action. That's still something I need to look into and figure out what exactly is the status quo for that within the city as a whole. I can tell you when, in 10 years, I have yet to hear a single question or instance of an affirmative action policy being something that came to bear with regards to something that was going on. So I suspect that it's not something that needs a ton of attention, but I need to just make sure that whatever we need to have in here is in here, and I will have that for next month. Okay, hearing procedures for disciplinary matters. I spent some time thinking about that last week and this week.
Which section is this that you're at?
This is under 5.01, the middle paragraph under 5.01. Yep. So, the current language, says the PFC may from time to time, at or after the filing of charges, promulgate rules and procedures relating to the hearing of such charges. A certain part of the lawyer in me says you want to have those done ahead of time so you know what they are. But also the fact that we have a relatively small amount of those types of incidents that come along that rise to the level of it coming to a hearing before the PFC, and you never know who exactly is going to be involved. Like, I, for instance, might say, I would like the procedure to work this way. Whereas, if there's another attorney that's advising the PFC as they go through that process, might look at what I come up with for that and say, I feel this is problematic for this reason or that reason. In which case, now you're having to take action to review those and change them, probably, prior to the hearing. So I've kind of come full circle on this back to thinking, the status quo in this actually does have some sense to it because it's a little more adaptable. You can establish procedures to whatever extent of detail is needed with, knowing what type of action you're about to have occur, which I think does have some sense to it. So I basically have come around to thinking that can just sit as is. So anyone else have thoughts on that particular bit?
I like the flexibility on that you're proposing.
Yeah. You never know what type of evidence is going to be coming in. It's going to vary. I mean, you could have some incidents that are very witness testimony driven. You could have some that are very documentary evidence driven, video, photos, that type of thing. So, yeah, I think the flexibility there makes a lot of sense. A note that I'd had in here going back a ways that we hadn't really had discussion about was under 5.03 performance evals, particularly evals for the police and fire chiefs. Just curious in terms of your own experiences of going through that process, chiefs or former chiefs or members of the PFC, any input on that? Is there anything you'd like to see changed in there? Anything you'd like to see added to that?
Nothing here.
Okay.
There's a couple of lines in there that have to do with established city procedures or something to that effect. I don't remember exactly what it was when I read through it before. Through the process from the personnel.
Yeah, I think you're referring to, it says the process will be in accordance with the schedule published by the Human Resources Manager.
Correct.
And that's just in order to make sure that those are provided in time for our administration of the pay plan, because people's step increases are based upon successful performance evaluations. And yeah, so basically, you know, in years past, that would have been Lisa sending stern reminders to everyone to get their performance evals in on time.
Exactly. And there was something else too with, and maybe this was an older version that doesn't exist anymore that I'm remembering, had something to do with regulations in city from that particular department. Is there a separation there now? I don't remember. Is there? We're following our own guidelines in personnel.
Yeah, so do you mean like something in here that references procedures or methods for the evaluations that are created outside of this body?
Correct.
To whatever extent that there's anything like that in here, I think that would actually not be enforceable. I think this body does have the right to do evals in the way they see fit.
I remember there being language in this policy before about that, and if there is, I'd like it removed so it's clear. I don't know if it's still in there in this version or not, but that's all I'm saying. We don't need to try and find it right now or anything, but as long as we can get it out before the final process.
I'm seeing under the portion related to non-represented employees, it does say, you know, using the evaluation form provided by the city human resources manager. Is that perhaps what you're thinking of?
That's part of it. Yeah, that could be it. I don't recall exactly what it was, but it made reference to that office and their established something or other.
Have you seen that form?
It was one of these that I was reading earlier today.
Okay.
So that could be the reference that I'm thinking of.
I'll tell you what I can do is just send that form around to the members of the commission. Be like, hey, this is here. Do you have anything on it that you'd like changed? You know, customized for well, this would ultimately be used by the chiefs for evaluations.
Right.
But I think there's still the authority for this body to make tweaks to that if you'd like. I personally, you know, I use that form when I'm doing evaluations for the city paralegal. I've never had an issue with it, so.
It's more of a position of doing the chief's evaluations that this board does those.
Right.
So we haven't seen that form.
Mm-hmm.
And if we're going to use it, then I think we ought to see it and have it. I know that we use one form that had multiple choice or rank 1 to 5, and
yep, that's the one.
These things on it that this board in the past has had problems with that ranking system or disagreements in the effectiveness of it.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the times when you're looking at a particular position and you're evaluating the person who's in it, a whole bunch of those 1 to 5 things are just not applicable. Like you end up circling NA a lot of times, and it can feel a little odd. But yeah, like I said, I can circulate a copy of that to everyone on the commission so they can see it. And if you want to make some tweaks to it, you can always do that. And you know, change this language in here to reflect that that there's an adapted form of that to be used.
I've got a question on that. Would that be that adaptive form only be used for the chiefs, or would the PFC ask the chiefs to use that on their managerial staff as well?
I think that's a debate for another day.
Okay, because that could really change the dynamics of.
Oh, absolutely.
How I'm, as the department head, going to do evaluations with my management staff.
I would say at least it would start with this board evaluating the chiefs, but.
Well, quick question, do you use a different form than the commission uses for you?
No, that's.
Is that the same one that gets used for all of them?
For my management staff, once they leave the local, that same form is used for all of them. And like our city attorney has stated, depending on which position they're in, sometimes the NA becomes overwhelming because some of those things don't really pertain to that job or that position within the department.
Yep.
Just speaking from my own experience, those numeric categories are usually not really the focus. It's more about the written sort of narrative goals, achievement of those goals, sort of paragraph form feedback, that type of thing, which is usually more of the rubber meets the road for the actual content.
Well, but for the pay increase or the step increase, I don't know if that's the right language, but correct me if I'm wrong, don't they have to get a certain number to yeah, so the numbers do matter.
Well, it has to be, satisfactory performance, and it's not like here's the threshold numeric score for it to be satisfactory, because for a lot of people, if you have an NA category, well, I mean, are you changing? Is it a percentage? It's more like, is the performance satisfactory or not? And for most, unless it's, okay, go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that this discussion is telling us why that form and that evaluation system is not a very good one to use, that we're debating it this much right now, in the fact that it's just not, it doesn't achieve what it should achieve. And we've had that same problem in years past where we've looked at it and said, nah.
For me, it's the average number, you can have 25 questions and 20 of them are NA, but so then you divide the math, and so what does the person get as an average? Is it 3.5? Is it 4? What is it? That's the way I look at it for whether they should get.
And that's part of the problem, because everybody looks at it differently. Because you take those NAs out and then you average it. Some people leave the NAs in and average it, and everything goes down to the farm. I agree that, to me, it doesn't make sense, but some people do it that way.
Well, I can tell you, I've been doing Becky's performance eval for 10 years, and I've never added up those numbers. I've never divided them. I've just decided, I look at the number that I assigned at the year prior, and then I think about, in this particular category, has performance improved, gone the other direction, or stayed the same? And almost without fail, it's stayed the same. But the real important part of that process, it's the conversation you have with the employee. And it's looking back at what were the goals that we wrote down and discussed last year, and has there been progress, towards those narrative goals. That's really more of the import there. And then it's just, well, is the performance satisfactory or not?
There's been question in the past is how accurately we have to follow that form, because it's stated in here that that form has to be used. So it wasn't like there was debate on whether it was flexible enough that we had the authority to just say, we're not even going to use that part of it, and we're going to focus on other aspects of that form.
Sure.
That's more of the clarity that I'm looking for in this conversation right now. But it's part of the policies and procedures. That's why we're talking about it.
Well, and the trouble with, this somewhat reflects the troubles you run into when you have a very diverse operation with a lot of departments that are extremely different from each other, and you're trying to have some sort of consistency in personnel administration and a pay plan that can be used generally across employees of wildly varying types of roles. Where it's like, an evaluation form for somebody who does crack filling in the streets department, it could and ought to have maybe 10 questions specifically about those physical skills, but it would just be impossible to do something quite like that, which is where then you would, though, possibly get into, in the written narrative, we're going to talk about your actual performance on these specific skills. So, like I said, I think probably the best thing, send that around so everyone can see it, even if you've seen it in the past, and then we could talk about if you'd like to have sort of a tweaked version of it that is unique to the uses of this body or the department. Now, obviously, that does get into the real nitty-gritty stuff day-to-day for the chiefs in terms of their evaluation forms for the non-represented employees. Obviously, for the represented employees, you have, the eval form is part of the contract. I think in both departments. Is that correct?
It is in the FD.
Yeah. So that's its own sort of different thing, but. So I will get that sent around to everyone, and if there's some tweaks, we can talk about them. Okay, exit interviews, and I can't tell you how disappointed I am that Denise Mrozek isn't here today. I finally put this in there, but I'm sure she's seen it. So, anyone have comments on what I put in there? This is. Harkening back to a phone call that I had with Jerry and JB, and I can't remember if there was anyone else on that call back in springtime when I said, well, here's kind of what I'm picturing. So I think this captures what we talked about that day.
Yeah, the only thing I would bring up is where that document is held. As the Police and Fire Commission, Andy is the custodian of records. Unless, I know I brought this up in the past, I think that home for that document should be there, not at Human Resource Office, or even could be placed in a personnel file. All those personnel files are held here. I don't know, where, the fire department, where are the document?
We have our personnel files as well at the FD locked up, even for our retiree staff.
To me, that just seems like a natural home, so you don't have a document floating out somewhere with no place to go, or in a place that really has no purpose to have that document to begin with.
So I'm just looking at the very next section, which is personnel and payroll records, to see if there's a reference to performance evals in there, and I don't see one.
There's, in one of these, and I don't remember where it is, there's a reference that the insurance and retirement are kept by the personnel office, but the rest of the personnel file is kept by the department.
That again?
Yeah, you're seeing, that's in the section immediately after the exit interview, actually.
Doesn't that answer that question then, where it belongs?
Human Resources Manager retains and is the custodian of employee benefit files.
Yeah.
Is an exit interview a benefit?
No, it's not. So that should go in the personnel file that's kept by each department.
All right, the only thing that should be with the human resource would be benefits, health benefits. Everything else is maintained by the respective agency.
Correct.
And kept for, what, 30 years after retirement or something?
30 years.
Oh, and sorry, we talked, a couple times I said performance evals. I meant exit interviews, so. Yeah, I think it makes sense for the exit interviews to become part of the personnel file. So I can add some language for that.
So that kind of clarifies that whole debate that we had before of where that goes and who gets to see it. Right.
I'd like to add on the second paragraph, if the other commissioners are not opposed.
Second paragraph of
exit interviews should be documented by the persons conducting them, and a summary of the results prepared in written form, add by the city human resources manager. So there's no confusion as to who we're supposed to be preparing the written form.
Could you repeat that again, Joe, please?
So it's the exit interview should be documented by the persons conducting them and a summary of the results prepared in written form. And I'd like to see added by the city human resources manager.
Yeah, I think
so there's
that
no
makes sense.
confusion to who
makes
preparing the written form.
Okay.
All right, we'll add that. Anything else on exit interviews?
No.
Okay. Moving on to 5.05. Just one little thing in there. We had talked about that a little bit, I think, but I think that obviously we need a process for requests for new positions. I think it makes sense for those to come from the chiefs to this body to state the case for why it's needed, and then if approved by this body, then it can go to human resource manager and go through that process with the city council. If anyone has any issues with the way I've written that out there, obviously let me know. The one I'm a little more curious about is this procedure to refill an existing position. It says the fire and police department should probably be departments must follow the current procedure set forth by city policy to request a new position or to refill an existing position. And I'm thinking, that's just normal turnover, multiple positions every single year. And I think the reference to city policy on that is a little odd. I mean, the funding is already there. It's a position that already exists. Positions that we need filled as soon as possible once they become vacant. So
there's been a situation actually in the fire department where it was different than that, because the fire department used to have an education officer, and that department or that position was eliminated. Clark Crandall held that position for many years, and that was left open and vacant for numerous years before it was just refilled and used under that same title as an education officer. So it wasn't year to year, it was actually quite a gap because of...
Oh, do you mean the training officer? Is
Correct.
that the one? Oh, okay,
Yep.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that was left open, it would have been from 2000 and...
Well, actually, Clark Crandall retired in either 2007 or 2008, if my memory serves me correctly. But that position was not left open and unfilled until our new division chief of training, Anthony Ewing, stepped into it. That position was actually, through the restructure in 2009, that position was retitled and was moved to a different position. So,
but it essentially eliminated a position that is now back.
Correct.
So we're playing semantic games.
Right, that position actually was there in the firehouse, and in the restructure, it became the Assistant Chief of Fire Department Operations.
There was no person that was specifically just an education officer at that time.
Correct.
And that's what I mean by it went away.
Correct.
That those job duties got rolled into somebody else's.
The Assistant Chief's roles.
Exactly, who already was there. So that position left, essentially, and was left open for numerous years. And now we have another person that is in that position under that title, not an assistant chief.
Correct, because that position was recreated.
I guess another example maybe would be the city engineer. If you remember Alex Saunders,
Yep.
He left his position as the city engineer. We essentially eliminated that position, but now we have a new position of the same title, I believe, same exact title. So is that so maybe we just need to clarify what is meant here by refill.
Well, I have a thought on the refill. Do we just create a new paragraph for that? Cut off, or to refill the existing position, create a new paragraph and talk about refilling that position.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm thinking. Like if a position is left vacant for more than X amount of time or something like that,
Well, frankly, if you're not funded for that position through a year,
Right.
it no longer exists. So if you're funded for a position, you can refill it. But if that funding lapses for a year, then you have to go through the process again.
Sure, that makes sense. I can create some language that'll clarify that a bit. Should be pretty straightforward. Okay, the only other thing I've got is, there's a couple fine details that I'll clean up. Like I said, add these appendices. There's some footnotes on the table of contents that talk about revision dates. We'll insert a date indicating this full recodification, full revision for that. Produce a clean copy without the red line and all that. Add the things that we discussed about adding today, and then hopefully take action on this next month and put it in the hopper.
That is the goal. Is there any other questions or comments about this topic at this time? That sounds like a plan that I am looking forward to having this finished next month. And with that, I would say that we have no other business and we are adjourned.
A video of this meeting is available for viewing on the city's website, stevenspoint.com/videos.